May I now request Mr. Vinod Malhotra, Advisor and Member of Board, SET Anandram Jaipuria Group of Educational Institutions, for the vote of thanks. Mr. Vinod Malhotra, a management graduate from Leeds University, UK, and LLB from Faculty of Law, New Delhi, has varied experience in administrative and quasi-judicial roles. He has been with the Indian Administrative Services in the past. During the set time, he has had the opportunity to be directly involved in various aspects of industrial development and has been involved from grassroots to the highest level of policy formulation at the national and international levels. He is an avid reader and a follower of Bhagavad Gita. He has authored more than 23 books on management, leadership, and soft skills. Over to you, sir. Huge round of applause, please.
I also must give my felicitation to the director and the team. That's my personal preference. That you started the entire orientation program, which began yesterday. You started with yajna and havan and spiritual practices and this, that, and other. And I think that's very important for us to create that right kind of ecosystem. These things really create a very positive vibrations in any kind of situation. And so I very strongly would also opt for making a suggestion to all of you to raise all your quotients, your knowledge quotient, your emotional quotient, everyone talked about it, but also try and raise your spiritual quotient. By spiritual quotient, I do not mean only you sort of remember and worship God. Spiritual quotient is what we talk about values and ethics in this system. This is where, and I dare say, we're talking about India becoming the spiritual guru, Vishwa Guru. And Vishwa Guru, you see, there's a competition in all other areas, in technology, in science, in humanities, and this, that, and other. But I can tell you there's very little competition when it comes to spiritual knowledge as far as India is concerned. That's where you really would establish yourself as a spiritual guru. And also the fact that the current revolution that we're seeing today, starting from, if you go back to the earlier areas, the hunters and gatherers and agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, today is a knowledge-based revolution. And knowledge is something that we have demonstrated in our country to a very large measure. And still, and I can tell you that we haven't even touched the tip of the kind of knowledge quotient that is available in our system. We are so smitten by the colonial era that, you know, the kind of the total wisdom and knowledge, that chest of knowledge. In fact, today I was reading our Prime Minister, he visited ISRO. She should talk about ISRO's and the landing in the moon. This is what he said. He says there's a huge amount of chest of knowledge that's available in our country. We really have to retrieve that, extract it. Talking about ISRO, you know, there are a couple of things which are very important, very interesting, scientific, and also there's a bit of a comedy attached with it. You have to understand that we, of course, we're all as Indian extremely proud of the fact that we landed in one of the most difficult air regions of moon. Like I always say, the angels fear to tread. The South Pole is most treacherous, most difficult. No other countries is. The moon session began way back in 1959, when Russia was the first country which sent a satellite there. Now just imagine, just make a comparison. Just when Chandrayaan was landing in the moon, just about that time, Russian satellite crashed. Now how do you explain that? Russia, which is far ahead, which is about 64 years ago, far ahead of technology in terms of knowledge. Even after 64 years, they could not successfully land in several attempts, and India sort of succeeded in going to the most difficult terrain. The reason why I'm talking about that is that whatever goals that you set for yourself, there always would be one component, apart from your efforts and your endeavors and your instruments and your desires and your capabilities, there always would be one element, which is the entire ecosystem, providential ecosystem, which is very important. And today, I can think about one possible reason why Russia crashed and India succeeded. is because of a collective consciousness of a country. The nation also has a collective consciousness. Russia's collective consciousness today is down in the dumps because the kind of things these people are doing. And I think India's collective consciousness is rising. I think that's very, very important for all youngsters to note. That we are heading in that positive direction. And I think if we keep ourselves in that phase continuously, then our future, like projected by several speakers, Shishir and everyone, is going to be extremely bright. But it has to be sustainable. And you guys are the torch bearers of creating the sustainability. That's very important. मून लैंडिंग मुझे एक और समस्या आई. वो समस्या ये है कि इतने सालों से फिल्म इंडस्ट्री वाले, बॉलीवुड वाले, पोइट्स वगैरह सब तमाम सब चंद्रमा की बहुत उपमा देते थे ना, तारीफ करते थे. जैसे वो एक पुरानी पिक्चर का चांद सा रोशन चेहरा किसी वो हीरो हीरोइन से बोलता था ना. अब आज वो चांद सा रोशन चेहरा कोई बताने की कोशिश करे अपनी लवर को, वो थप्पड़ मारेगी उसको. फॉर ए सिंपल रीज़न वी नाउ नो कि चांद का चेहरा रोशन नहीं है. पहली बात है कि वी ऑल नो द साइंटिफिक फैक्ट द मून डज नॉट हैव लाइट ऑफ इट्स ओन. इट गेट्स रिफ्लेक्टेड लाइट फ्रॉम द सन. दैट इज़ वन. दूसरा, उस कमबख्त के चेहरे पे इतने धब्बे हैं, इतने दाग हैं. तो आज so the problem is that poets and heroes are in a bit of a problem. So you cannot possibly. So that's the funny side of the entire landing process. You see, it's extremely important, and all the speakers mentioned, that you must have a very clear goal in your life. You must set a base. That's very important. So if you have a clarity in your goal, then you understand the journey, you understand the process that you need to take, and there's a complete clarity in your mind. And like one person's mentioned, that make sure that you have the right kind of an attitude, the right kind of a aptitude, and something which is very consistent with your innate nature. जो आपकी इसी हमेशा लगता है कि जो कहते हैं ना, the grass on the other side is always greener, कि वो जो बंदा वो कर रहा है वो ज़्यादा अच्छा होगा. Don't think about that. Think about your own strengths. Do your own SWOT analysis. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Time and again, Krishna tells Arjuna, Shreyan swadharmo viguno paradharmo sunishchita. He says, your own nature, innate nature, is far more important than even a highly exalted or a glorious nature or glorious profession other people follow. So follow your nature and follow your passion. I think this is extremely important. Another thing which I like to make a distinction between dream big, but bring down your desires. Bring down. There's a difference between dreaming, achieving, and desires. वो एक शायर ने किसी ने कहा है ना, हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले, बड़े निकले मेरे अरमान फिर भी कम निकले. तो ख्वाहिशों का तो कभी अंत होगा नहीं, लेकिन अपने सपनों को मत कहीं बिखरने दो. Make sure that you follow your dreams, follow your passion. And if you're able to, at this point of time, create a sense of level playing field, create a sense of equanimity, samatva bhav lek agar aap chalte hain, you're not disturbed by the changes that are happening in the atmosphere. You know, people, all kind of people, this, that, and other, they'll say negative things about you. But if you're not disturbed, if you understand this is what you're going to do, then I think you should become an extremely successful person. ये एक जो इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ बार बार यहाँ पे आप लोगों ने रिपीट करी थी कि नो प्रॉब्लम बीइंग टू फेल होना बुरा नहीं है, अच्छा है सब. यू नो, so my only worry is that don't fail deliberately. Make sure that you मतलब हारे वो पता लगा मैं साहब 3-4 बार फेल हो जाऊंगा और मिश्रा जी के पास जाएंगे, आपने तो कहा था मेरे को नौकरी चाहिए. So resist that temptation. If you must fail in trying new things, out of the box thinking, trying out new experiments. These next 2 years will allow you an opportunity to experiment. Basic idea was, Allah, this is an opportunity for you to fail and then succeed. But that opportunity may not be available to you once you go out. आपने आपको नौकरी दे भी दी, अगर वहाँ fail करेंगे तो Mishra ji will make sure that he thinks twice before getting you in. So, but this is one particular opportunity that you have, big time, to make sure that you are able to, to sort of set your path. One particular factor which I must necessarily like to convey to you, which was mentioned, apart from creativity, critical thinking, also collaboration, team spirit. Let me give a very brief story, very interesting story. You see, in a class like about 100 people, like you sort of sit together. The teacher, what he did, he gave something like about 60 odd balloons to the students. And what he told them, that each one of you fill up the air, tie it down, and write your name on the balloon. Right? So they went to a hall. Everyone wrote down the name, and they went to a hall, and all the balloons were thrown into on a very ad hoc, scattered manner. Now, once the balloons settled down in the hall, the teacher asked every student to go and pick up the balloon where his or her name is written. Now, can you imagine what happened? There's a complete chaos. And he says, the first 5 who bring their balloons to me will be rewarded. The complete confusion, chaos, verse confounded, everyone running helter-skelter. And it took hours before they could discover the balloon where their own name was written. Second time, he did exactly the same thing. This time he told them, do exactly what I told you earlier on. But this time, pick up whatever balloon comes in your hand and give it to the person whose name is written on it. And they were able to finish the entire work in 5 minutes' time. That's the spirit of collaboration. If we start following our own paths, our own journey, without concern of the person sitting next door or part of my team, then you won't meet your objective, and at the same time you'll have major problems. So this is the kind of a collaborative spirit that we need to, and I think we as a nation, one of the largest in the world today, can definitely do with pairing up together, having the kind of a peer group influence upon each other, learning from each other. And like always says, no one person is a repository of all the wisdom, no matter how high that person may be. If you pull in your knowledge, pull in resources, the success would be definitely entirely yours. You see, the word outside is, like you mentioned, first, you can't afford to fail outside. दूसरी बात है कि word is pretty hostile. Let's be very clear about it. Word is unforgiving. Human beings some may be forgiving, some may not be. But in totality, the entire ecosystem does not allow failure to happen. It recognizes success. But it's very important for us to be able to make sure that not only we sort of sit together, we also must make sure that this hostility that is covering all of us, we also have some kind of a way out for us to de-stress ourselves. There's a very beautiful word, French word expression is called, I'm quite fond of that word. It's a joie de vivre. Joie de vivre. This, of course, French pronunciation. Joie-de-vivre. Joie de vivre. It's a joy of life. No matter what happens, everything is incidental. Earning money, getting married, producing children, getting jobs, this, that, and other are important. There's all going to be. There's not something which where everybody's done. But you must create a separate kind of a system, a conduit for yourself to stay rooted and stay happy. Joy of life cannot be sacrificed. At the end of it all, you see, like talking about Aristotle and Socrates, and obviously the fundamental aim of human entity is to stay happy. And how do you stay happy? By consciously getting into those habits Vinod talked about, consciously cultivating certain habits, and apart from your studying and this, that, and other, is to find a way where you can de-stress yourself. The corporate world is unforgiving, very competitive, fiercely competitive. So you need some way out. And even the technology is very stressful. Excess of technology is very stressful. म्यूज़िक है, डांस है, पेंटिंग है, स्पोर्ट्स है, कोई ना कोई ऐसी बुरी आदत आप पाल लीजिए which will actually help you in times of tension, stresses, which are inevitable part of any kind of an organization. आप लोगों को फेस करेंगे, हम लोगों को फेस करेंगे, लेकिन एक तरीका, एक बैकअप आपके पास ज़रूर होना चाहिए. Lastly, you heard everyone gave you wonderful ideas, but एक चीज़ जो आपको कल्टिवेट ज़रूर करनी पड़ेगी. For next 2 years आप you'll have lot of lectures, lot of workshops, lot of sessions, teachers in and out, mentoring, this that. बहुत सारे आपको अल्फाज, बहुत सारे शब्द, बहुत सारे वर्ड्स, अंग्रेज़ी, हिंदी, सब जगह आपको सुनने पड़ेंगे. Cultivate a strong art of listening. You know, I can tell you this crowd, 200 लोग यहाँ बैठे हैं ना, जो भी हैं 300 हैं, तो उसमें I can say with absolute confidence. You see, there's a very beautiful two pair of words in English. One is listening, one is hearing. You must have develop an art of listening. When you listen, it's like a child. Child listens. When you listen, you are able to imbibe and absorb and assimilate and internalize whatever is being said. But when you're only hearing, you're only hearing a sound, like any other sound. It doesn't make an impact at all. It doesn't add to your knowledge. It doesn't add value. You probably might be surprised to know that some of the universities in America, including Harvard University, are having a course on specific course and credits on art of listening. I think when you're saying that be in time, be right there, that's what we really mean. If you are there in time, that you're actually attentively listening and absorbing whatever is being said. And in the course of next 2 years, a lot of people, speakers will come and share wonderful thoughts with you. So stay rooted, stay grounded, listen to the words consciously. Accept what you think is right, reject if you think it doesn't make sense. That's okay, that's the kind of a choice that you people have. But so much of knowledge coming from all quarters. And finally, stay as a lifelong learner. It is not, this is a very structured opportunity for you to learn, but don't give up learning. I can just quote my own example. I had fortunate to be associated with the education group after my retirement, which is about 15 years to go now. 15 साल पहले retire हुआ था मैं. I can tell you with the confidence and amount of learning that had happened in last 15 years far exceeds the learning that I did in the previous 60 years. So you probably know my age now. So this is what is a part of learning. Don't give up learning. Learning, skills, problem solving, these are going to be the mantras. And use technology wherever it is required, which is being said time and again. But these are some of the very important mantras of staying rooted, staying physically fit. You see, the learning also creates a very nice kind of a system. Your cerebral activity, your cerebral cortex that you have, you know, the hypothalamus and whatever biological name that you can talk about, they stay fully alive. And if they stay alive, your body, your physical sense also becomes alive. So don't give up learning. Pick up an opportunity. जहाँ भी कुछ ज्ञान प्राप्त करने की संभावना है, और आज ज्ञान प्राप्त करने की संभावनाएं अपार हैं, all over, right in your hands. You got knowledge. Don't give up that. Wonderful to have all of you here. Next 2 years, maybe we have more opportunities to interact with each other. But I think you are an excellent ecosystem with wonderful teachers, directors, and everyone. And enjoy, learn every moment that you spend in this organization. Thank you very much to all.